So it is Sunday, pre-practice 49ers talk. 49ers practicing a little bit later than they have been, around 1:05 today. So I'll head down to the facility. But the later practice time means that we get to talk about stuff like this. The All 22. Trey Lance to Danny Gray for the touchdown. 76 yards on Friday night. That got the weekend started off right for the 49ers. Today, they're going to be back out on the practice field. Same thing on Monday. And then on Tuesday, they have a day off before the joint practices at Minnesota. Take a look at that. Nice throw. Danny Gray got so fast. 4.3 speed, really changing the nature of the 49ers offense. I want you to check out my piece up on The Athletic. This was post-game, Samuel Womack. The 49ers may have found another fifth-round gem. I will copy and paste that into the chat section right now. So there you go. And then I wrote another one on Saturday. This is about Daniel Brunskill's hamstring injury and how it has at least, I don't want to say progressed because injuries never progress anything, but we have moved forward in our evaluation of what the 49ers offensive line is going to look like, at least to start this 2022 season. So I'm going to be talking about all those things. That second article that's up on your screen right now is also now in the chat section. And why don't we start talking some 49ers here on this beautiful Sunday? So first of all, Daniel Brunskill's hamstring strain. That's what's up on the screen right now. That's what we can begin with. It's going to keep him out for a few weeks. So this, in all likelihood, means that Jake Brendel has locked up the starting center job for the 49ers. And Brendel was good on Sunday. No pressures allowed. I think it was 8 or 9 pass blocking snaps. I thought that he was good orchestrating the run game. It was a small sample size, but my biggest worry with Jake Brendel, since he's a very athletic lineman, but has a lighter profile. He's up to 300 pounds now, but when he came out of the draft in 2016, I mean, this guy was like 280. So he's always needed to add more strength. This is why he wasn't drafted in 2016, was because he was on the lighter side coming out of UCLA, and he obviously hasn't been a starter before in his NFL career. I think he got one spot start a few years ago with Houston, but that was about it. So Jake Brendel's ability to anchor was of most concern to me. He did fine in his NFL preseason starting debut against the Green Bay Packers, and the 49ers now must build on that because this center position is so important for them on a schematic level, right? Not just, from a strength level, but Jake Brendel in that 49ers center position has to direct traffic out there. And I thought that he did a good job against the Packers. So we'll see how that builds because it's almost certainly Brendel's job now. And there's a secondary headline for this when you go to here. Let's see. I'll open this up. Go into the page right here. The secondary headline. It's on my athletic page here, my author page. That's pre-beard era right there, as I could see my picture. The 49ers will now almost certainly break in 3 interior offensive linemen. Here, I could make it bigger for you and scroll down so you can see that headline right here. I'm circling it with my mouse, my cursor. 49ers, because of this Brunskill Brendel situation where Brendel is now almost certainly going to be the starting center given Brunskill's injury, will have a new left guard in Aaron Banks, a new center in Jake Brendel, and it's looking like the right guard is going to be Spencer Burford. Now, Banks and Brendel were really good as far as, any advanced data goes with pass protection. It tracks how the 49ers did. Pro Football Focus charting didn't have them giving up a single pressure. I watched the tape for both Brendel and for Brunskill. Brandon Thorne, offensive line analyst online, he cut up all of Aaron Banks's tape, and it looked really good for the 49ers at left guard. It was a promising debut. Did it come against some second stringers? Of course it did, but that's the nature of the preseason. You can only block who's in front of you, and Jake Brendel successfully, and Aaron Banks successfully blocked who was in front of them on Friday. Spencer Burford had more of an up and down day, and this was totally expected because Spencer Burford is a rookie that the 49ers are trying to start at that right guard position. Now, in the past, it had been thought that maybe if Burford flames out, that Daniel Brunskill, if he doesn't win the center battle against Jake Brendel, he can just go back to his old spot at right guard. Well, now Daniel Brunskill is a hamstring strain. So Daniel Brunskill is going to be out for a few weeks. This makes it almost certain that A, of course, Brendel's going to start at center, but B, Brunskill's not going to be there to relieve Spencer Burford at that right guard position. So a lot more pressure now on Burford. I can't really think of any other legitimate 49ers starting options as of right now. Obviously, Jason Poe has impressed everybody. He's making progress, but he still is viewed as a developmental guard. I think that, he's closer to making the 53-man roster than he ever was. I'm talking about Jason Poe, but the 49ers don't consider him a legitimate day one starting option yet. They do consider Spencer Burford a day one starting option, and he did show some strength, especially on those ragdolling plays in the run game, but he did struggle a little bit in pass protection, especially earlier in the outing. He played a half plus. They kept him out there into the first drive of the second half. And the reason that Spencer Burford played a half plus is because he needs the reps. He really, really needs those reps. And he did better, I thought, as time went along in pass protection. But that also means that it could be because the level of competition dropped as time went along, right? You usually face the guys higher up on the depth chart on the defensive line earlier, and then that talent level starts dropping as the Packers got into their second and third strings as that first half progressed. So I think that when you look at the rest of this preseason, the 49ers have less than a month now. The season opener at Chicago is on September 11th. It's August 14th right now. It's going to be really, really important for the 49ers to maximize this time with Spencer Burford at right guard, and you want only improvement from here on out. 5 pressures allowed in a half plus, a half in one drive. That's not going to be good enough for week one. But the good news is that it's not week one, and the good news is that Spencer Burford seems like a worthy project. Talked about him in the video last week. I mean, the guy has his head on straight. The guy has that dog mentality. And, I think the 49ers are betting that he's going to be all right at that right guard position. All right, let's talk Trey Lance to Danny Gray. I'm going to put on the all-22 tape again because this is the fun stuff right here. I did a big breakdown of every single Trey Lance snap from his rookie season right here on YouTube from the all-22 angle, where I would analyze it as it went through both the sideline and the end zone angles. So why don't we take a look at Trey Lance's first touchdown of this 2022 season, at least of this 2022 preseason, to Danny Gray. Now, what made this particularly impressive to me is what Trey Lance did before the snap in seeing where Danny Gray was lined up. We could probably see it best from the sideline angle. If we go back to the very start of this formation, you see Danny Gray's going to be here in the slot. They motioned out a tight end all the way to take care of the outside cornerback because the defense is in man coverage. So you have, I believe that's Croft that split out way to the top of the screen, Tyler Croft. Danny Gray's in the slot, which means safety is guarding him. And if it is truly man coverage, which Trey Lance was able to diagnose, he knew that Danny Gray was going to be able to just cook the safety. There are very few cornerbacks in the league that will have speed to match Danny Gray, who's at a 4.3. If it's a safety, you can forget about it. And you can watch here that the Packers could indeed forget about it. He's gone. Touchdown. Trey Lance put that ball where it needed to be. I also want to point out that he stepped up in the pocket against a decent pass rush. It wasn't the best pass protection, but one more time, why don't we watch the throw before we look at the pocket and how Trey Lance steps up, despite the fact that his tackles are starting to cave in on him. Dime, touchdown, Danny Gray's speed. There's a couple things about this play that I wrote in my post-game or post-day piece, the day after piece. One of them was here. They have School at right tackle. They have McKivitz at left tackle. The guards held up really well. Jake Brendel to Burford, everybody. The guards, there is no tangible interior rush here. In fact, you could see Spencer Burford just shoved 7 out of the way. But the tackles, I mean, they start to get caved in here. 55 working on Justin School. He's at least partially winning. And you could see that the anchor isn't particularly strong on the left side from Colton McKivitz. So Trey Lance is facing some duress, but he steps up and hangs in there, right? hanging in the pocket, stepping up, keeping your eyes downfield, and he throws the perfect pass to Danny Gray. So one reason that this works, normally you think about deep passes not really being compatible with a offensive line that just isn't great in pass protection. Well, Danny Gray is so fast that if you put the stopwatch on this, if those of you who are watching here have an iPhone, if you're not watching on your phone, put on the stopwatch. I'll give you a few seconds to open up the clock application. We're going to measure how long it takes from snap to the ball leaving Trey Lance's hand. I have already measured this, so I'm not going to get out my stopwatch, but I'm not going to tell you until you actually have a chance to do this exercise yourself. So get out the stopwatch, have your iPhone ready, and know that deep passes typically just, this is obvious nature. Deep passes typically take longer to develop and therefore will expose a poor offensive line. All right, let's go snap to release. Ready? Start the clock when they snap it. Right? Now. And now stop it right there where Trey Lance lets go of it. I'll give you one more shot to time this. All right. Oh, let's go back a little bit further. Okay, here we go. Get ready. Start the watch right now. Out right now. I timed it several times yesterday, and it was about 2.5 to 2.6 seconds. Snap to release. Trey Lance throwing deep to Danny Gray. Now know that most deep balls in the NFL, you're going to have at least 3 seconds to go from snap to release because the receiver's not going to be open in less than 3 seconds. Well, Trey Lance was able to throw this to Danny Gray because Danny Gray was so open already with that blazing speed in just 2.5 seconds. And why is that significant? Well, right here at the time of the throw, look to see where the pass rush already is. 55 is already on the right here. This is the time of the throw right there. 55 is already beating Justin School at this point. So if this takes another half second, I don't think that Trey Lance gets this ball off. And he's already facing duress from Colton McKivitz getting backed into him. So the fact that he was able to go snap to release in 2.5 seconds made this play work. It made the pass protection adequate. This is not great pass protection, but it became adequate because of the fact that it took only 2.5 seconds. And for that, the 49ers can thank this guy, Danny Gray. That's why he's going to change the way that the 49ers can play offense this year. They have a legitimate speed threat in Danny Gray that can bust the top off of defenses, but he can also get open on those goal balls quicker so they could at least partially mask an offensive line that may have some struggles this year. Mike McGlinchey is going to be out for at least a week now, so we're going to see more backup tackle action for the 49ers in these joint practices against the Vikings. Of course, at left tackle, you're going to have a better situation in games because Trent Williams is actually going to play. But we do know that there are questions all across this 49ers offensive line. Now, what you saw in that clip, that illustrated why it's so important. I should probably just open this sucker up again. This illustrates why it's so important to get good interior pass protection. And the 49ers are going to be starting 3 new interior linemen. If we look at the pocket right here, Burford's doing his job at right guard. Brendel and Banks are both doing their job at center and left guard. So Lance has room to throw in front of him, right? He has room to operate in front of him. It's the tackles who get a little bit pushed, but they are backup tackles, so that's okay. But the 3 guys in the middle of this pocket who all do their job on this play, they are projected to be starters for the San Francisco 49ers in week 1 of this 2022 season. So the fact that they held up is great because Lance can work with the tackles just doing okay. Kind of getting beaten, kind of not. The tackles are doing all right. The tackles didn't get caved in here. They got pushed back. They didn't get caved in. Lance can step up in the pocket. He has the wherewithal to be able to handle that. But if the interior line is detonated, he's not able to make this play to Danny Gray. So that's where the 49ers offensive line is right now. There's work to be done. Trent Williams has to come back. But the fact that on this play, the interior held up, that's big news for the 49ers. Touchdown to Danny Gray. I think you may see that more than once in this 2022 season. All right, let's talk a little bit about this guy, Samuel Womack. I have to open up the article that I wrote on Samuel after the game. Didn't get a chance to post this one up on the screen yesterday, so now's a good opportunity to do it. In Samuel Womack, the 49ers may have uncovered another fifth-round gem. Let's talk about fifth-round 49ers draft picks that have done really, really well to help this franchise to the really impressive success that it's seen over the past 3 years. George Kittle, 2015. DJ Reed, 2017 for George Kittle, first year of the Shanahan-Lynch era. DJ Reed, 2018. Now, Reed, obviously, they made that mistake. They let him go. It was an injury situation. It was a roster kind of numbers situation. But DJ Reed is now making over $11 million a year with the New York Jets. So he was a good fifth-round pick in 2018. Dre Greenlaw, 2019, 49ers fifth-round pick. Talanoa Hufanga, 2021, fifth-round pick of the 49ers. And finally, Samuel Womack, the nickelback with 2 interceptions the other day, was their fifth-round pick in the 2022 NFL draft. It already looks like that's money in the bank for Samuel Womack. And it's not just because Samuel Womack had 2 interceptions against Jordan Love, a backup quarterback in a preseason game. It's because of the deeper dive that we had already done on Samuel Womack, and that I made sure I presented with a new article after the game. Somebody said, oh, well, you can't overreact one preseason game. Well, sorry, I'm not overreacting one preseason game. I wrote 1,500 words interviewing Samuel Womack's former college coach, his former college teammate in Kadar Holman, going through, just evaluations of Samuel Womack, looking at the college game tape. It's all here. It's all in this piece. And I'm going to copy and paste this into the chat section because it paints the picture of a guy that has just off to get to where he is right now. Let me tell you a little bit about Samuel Womack. Comes out of Detroit, not really offered D1 scholarship, so he walks on at Toledo. Toledo's not, the most major FBS school. He walks on at Toledo, earns the scholarship there. Not only earns the scholarship, but he breaks Toledo's program record for pass breakups with 45 over the course of his career. So the sticky coverage that we saw on Friday is something that we've seen with Samuel Womack before. It's not just like it just showed up out of nowhere. Guy was constantly around the football in college, and it's no coincidence that he's constantly around the football in the NFL. And, I have to read the quote here from his coach right here. I just think that no matter who it was that we lined up against Sam, he was always ready to compete and always ready to throw his name in the fight and get his hands dirty. That, to me, is just who he is as a human. The guy's scrappy. The guy's going to fight. I mean, he right here, if you're coming in as a walk-on, especially if you're not an in-state student, tuition is tough to come by. To make it happen, you've got to be really, really committed to being who you said you were going to be. And that's what I really appreciate about Sam. That's how he earned a scholarship. That's how he earned to become a starter. That's how he earned to be an all-conference player and ultimately worked himself to be a draft pick. Well, now it's the next step for Samuel Womack. Now he's coming into an NFL building and he's trying to earn, at least playing time. Maybe not a starting job right off the bat, but that's another thing. I talked about it in the video yesterday. The incumbent starter, Darqueze Dennard, he's a great mentor. It's just like Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance last year. They had a good relationship, and that helped Trey along. Well, you're seeing Darqueze help Samuel Womack now. And this is a big deal because Samuel Womack already has the tools and already has the drive and the work ethic and the dog in him to make, big strides and to be sticky in coverage and to ultimately become a starter. We saw it at Toledo. We saw it during the first preseason game. So it's a hell of a story. And I really recommend that you check it out. I spent a lot of time on Friday night after the game. I was up till like 3 a.m. writing this story. Try to get, deeper into the stories of these guys than you're going to find anywhere else. So one more time, it's in the chat section. All right. I'm going to go through a couple questions, and then I'm off to practice. Just a stinger for Drake Jackson. Yes, just a stinger. All those hurt. So I hate saying just a stinger. I say it sometimes too. I mean, your arm kind of goes limp, and didn't look good for Jake Jackson there for a while, but he's looking a lot better now. Stinger was the injury. Any more questions here? Oh, this is cool. Samuel Womack is a high school legend of the Detroit area. He was he was. He was a rival of Ambry Thomas in high school, who's also from Detroit. Too bad the season opener this year is not against the Lions like it was last season. It's kind of funny. Womack. Well, doesn't look like you guys are. I'm not sure who's going to play game 2. We'll see. I mean, today's practice is a little weird because I don't think they're going to go too hard with the guys who played in the game. I think they're going to, it might be a little bit of an abbreviated practice today. And then they're going to try to get everybody in those joint practices in Minnesota Wednesday and Thursday. And then they're going to rest most of the guys. So you're going to see a lot of young guys. Should be fun for developmental purposes on Saturday in Minnesota, but no Trey Lance. I'm not sure. They're going to be cutting down the roster this week, 5 players. The 16th, which is in 2 days, the 49ers have to go from 90 to 85. And then next week, 85 to 80. And then August 30th, they're going to go from 80 to 53. But those first 5 cuts, it's not that easy to predict. And nobody usually on the outside cares all that much. So we'll see what happens. I'll report it when it comes through on Tuesday. I don't think that anybody significantly hurt or helped their 53-man chances this other day. The 49ers 53-man roster it's going to be really hard to crack. I mean, you see it when I post the roster up online. You could check out the spreadsheet, the 90-man roster. There's only like 2 or 3 questions that I legitimately have about this year. And the practices are where a lot of this is going to be determined and where a lot of it maybe already has been determined. So we'll see how the rest of camp goes, but only a few more practices and 2 more games left for them to round out those final spots. Trey Sermon. Yeah, I promised I'd talk about Trey Sermon in the headline, didn't I? I don't think he had any room to run. He had 11 yards on 6 carries. There was one run, I believe it was a 3rd down run on the first drive that I thought was a good run from Trey Sermon. He might have picked up 3 or 4 yards. There was a total crowd in the middle, and I thought he was more slippery than I had seen him last year, and he was able to push forward for some positive yardage. Other than that, I saw absolutely no room to work with for Trey Sermon. There was a little screen that they threw him. I believe it was right before the touchdown to Danny Gray, where he might have picked up 5 or 6 yards. Also made the most of what was there. Kyle Shanahan said the same thing. Kyle Shanahan said, I didn't think there was any room for him to run, and that's how they're going to grade the runs. Trey Sermon has impressed the 49ers so far in training camp practice with his ability to hit the right hole and be decisive there. The problem, as I said before the preseason game, is that there's no live tackling there. So he hasn't had a chance to put everything together yet. And by that, I mean a chance to play in live contact situations, to be able to break live tackles while simultaneously having holes in front of you that the offensive line has created. So he had live tackling on Friday, but they didn't create the holes for him. So we didn't really get to see Trey Sermon shine yet. And I think the 49ers will give him more chances to do so, obviously, as a 3rd-round pick coming up against the Minnesota Vikings this week during the joint practices and then at the game on Saturday. That's what I think about the running backs. I thought we would see a little bit more tackle breaking from Ty Davis-Price. I really did. I thought we saw decent speed from him, which I guess is big step number 1 at 220 pounds. So I thought the burst looked pretty good for Ty Davis-Price. I want to see him run over some more defensive backs, though. That's what I thought I signed up for. So we'll see if that happens moving forward. Jordan Mason, he looked okay, but he didn't come in until very garbage time. So you always have to remember in game 1 of the preseason, whatever all these guys are doing, Purdy, Jordan Mason, it's all coming against 3rd stringers. So you want them to get their feet wet and NFL game experience, but you also realize that the big names, the big boys aren't playing. Usually not playing at all in week 1 of the preseason. Definitely not playing in the second half. Kamoko Toure, though, he's going to make the roster. They needed a defensive lineman to round out that game with Drake Jackson out, a lot of guys sitting. So he did some yeoman's work for the 49ers with 48 snaps in that game. And JaMychal Hasty had that bad special teams play. I'm seeing people talk about him. Yep, this is it. Sermon had no room at all. It's timing. He did get some reps with the ones, but the problem is even the ones didn't have Trent Williams in there. So you just have to take it for what it's worth. I don't think Mason makes the team unless there are injuries, and there really might be injuries. There already is one to Elijah Mitchell. He's got a hamstring, right? So, or some kind of strain. I don't know if it's a hamstring or it is a muscle strain. So Mitchell's going to be out for the preseason, should be back for the regular season, but case in point with the injuries. So if there are injuries, then, Jordan Mason's going to be on that 53. If there aren't injuries, then I think that you see Jordan Mason on that practice squad for the 49ers. All right, I'm going to go. I want to get some acai. I want to get an acai bowl before I head down to practice today. So hope everybody enjoyed the film. We did a little all-22 breakdown. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and we'll take one more look at it. Danny Gray from Trey Lance. 2.5 seconds from snap to release, as you'll see right here. That was the key to this play. And Danny Gray, since he could run that fast, and he gives the 49ers that new dimension to their offense. There it is. Danny Gray, wide open. Trey Lance, good. The most impressive thing Trey Lance did there, I think almost any NFL quarterback is making this throw. People were arguing the other day on Twitter. This is my final thought. Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo can't make this throw. Yes, he can. It's a 40 to 45 yard go pattern. We saw Garoppolo make a similar throw to Richie James in 2019 against Tampa Bay. We saw him throw the deep ones to Kittle. We saw deep one to Deebo Samuel against the Chicago Bears. We also saw a deep one to Brandon Ayuk in the championship game against the Rams. The issue, though, is stepping up in the pocket. And I'm not saying that was Garoppolo's issue. I'm saying that, arm talent in NFL is a dime a dozen with quarterbacks. They're able to make a streak pattern 40 yards down the sideline. But something that you would like more quarterbacks to be able to do is to sense a rush, sense a collapsing pocket, but not panic, step up, and deliver the football. And that's what Trey Lance did. And he hit Danny Gray in stride. He also was able to identify, if you look here, this is for the viewers who just joined. He was able to identify that he was going to have a matchup that was a slam dunk victory. And that's Danny Gray, man on man. You got to be able to identify man coverage against the safety. Just watch Gray here. He's going to blow by him. Boom. And Lance releases as soon as Danny Gray is on the same latitude as the safety, Lance is throwing this football because he knows it's money in the bank. So impressive. I wanted Trey to, show field general characteristics in this game, and he definitely showed field general characteristics. We know he's got a strong arm. We know that NFL quarterbacks can make that throw. It's about the nuances of getting to the point of making that throw. Now we want to go see Trey Lance do that against better defenses moving forward because the Packers weren't throwing their best out there. But it was a good start for Trey Lance. It definitely was. He only missed one throw, that deep out to Danny Gray as well. So we'll see if he could improve on that consistency. All right, everybody like the video, sub to the channel. I'll see you out at practice. Another instant reaction coming from practice. We're only 86 subs away from 18,000, by the way. So maybe we get it like right now. If you're watching and you don't subscribe, hit it right now, and maybe we get 18,000 in the next 5 seconds. So hit that button right now. We'll talk to you all soon. All right, everybody, take care.